Vanakkam, this is Hyder Ali Syed from Asivagam, United Under Tamil.
Trinity or Trimurti, the three-in-one concept. It is copied from Asivagam. In Asivagam, we human being are three-in-one. Human being are made of three elements. 1. Earthly material flesh. 2. God breath, soul, Atma. 3. And DNA, we human are three-in-one, not God. God is one and only. Nowhere in Bible Trinity is explained. Roman Empire looted this concept from native spiritual path, and they made God as three-in-one, which Christian cult are preaching. Coming to Brahmanism, their backbone is the concept of rebirth. Rebirth is there, but which elements in human beings take rebirth? Soul, Atma, in other words God particle. Does God particle takes rebirth? Human flesh when dies return back to earth from where it was created, while God breath, in other words soul, Atma, return back to God. The third element in our body is DNA, the blueprint of life. Does the DNA takes the rebirth? Yes, DNA takes rebirth. How old is the DNA? DNA was created before the creation of earth and human. Out of million of rebirth of living cells in our body, only one mingled sperm takes the human form. How that human would be depends on individual karma and their previous generation karma, genetic coding. That's why Asivagam talks about 7 stages in human life under the concept of Saptakani Saptamuni.
Guidance maybe from no, not necessarily from the rules or anything. Maybe the guidance you get from like in the coil, the God will come on to the people and talk, right? Even that sort of guidance. Or any like some siddhas are there, words of siddhas, like any sort of guidance basically.
Okay, so this particular guidance that you're talking about is a particular form of guidance called transcendental guidance, wherein you expect that some non-human divine entity reaches out and gives you a message. So it's like a phone call from the divine in some form. Now, this phone call from the divine phenomenon need not be the only route for all spiritual aspirants. Some of the spiritual aspirants who are on the path of devotion may resonate to something like what you have said. But the path of devotion need not be the only or even the default path to pursue enlightenment in Hinduism. So that's the difference. Even when you pursue the path of devotion, there is a lot of scope in that for you to establish that connection with your Lord directly. So your Lord can speak to you in 100 different ways. It could be an action that happened. It could be a stranger who made a very passing remark. It could be you seeing a scene or card scene சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா? It could be you seeing some scene in which a divine, or it could be a very simple gesture which you can interpret as ஒரு பூ விழுகிறது அல்லது ஒரு இதாகிறது. You can also interpret that as a message from the divine. Now, the important thing is, if you are on the path of devotion, you should not analyze all this with a rational mindset, right? So if you want to be clinically precise and rational, maybe the path of devotion, or maybe only the path of devotion, is not for you. There are other paths if you want to pursue the path of pure reason. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So okay, you sounded like the person who quite rational, like have a two different.
General, let me just. I just need to add something. I forgot. I just found the verses. Like in Gita 1863, Krishna says, like, Arjuna, I have told you everything. Do as you wish. I take this path. Like, it has already been said to me, but at the end, the decision is entirely mine. Even the Lord doesn't get to force me. I mean, he can, but he gives me the free will and says, like, do as you wish, kid. So yeah, that's why I'm a little bit skeptical when it comes to even my scriptures. If it doesn't agree with me, if it doesn't sound like it doesn't suit me, or if it sounds like something that I shouldn't do according to.
So I'm not saying this one is better than other, no, or one is bad than other. I'm not saying that. I'm not looking in that way. Third, I'm just saying it's like two different ways. Okay. Now, I have the same question for. Okay. So you said okay, somebody has taken a devotional path, and there is a way to. Okay, we are getting a message from the God, from different every day. We are meeting people, and there are so many messages. I agree to that. Okay, like every day, every encounter is a message to us. It will have an impact on us. Right? I agree to that point. So these messages from the God. Okay, this message is from the God to the humankind. How is He helping? Like, is it where it is taking us? Where it is taking the humans?
You can become a devotee only when you stop asking this question. So, to a devotee, the love for God, which he expresses through different means. See, there are devotees who consider God to be their friend. There are devotees who consider God to be their master. There are devotees who consider God to be their husbands and and even wives, for example. There are devotees who consider even the God to be their servant, right? So, where will this devotion take me is not a question that a devotee asks. That's the very to merge into, to dissolve one's identity into the object of devotion is the whole point of devotion. So, where is it taking them? It's taking them towards dissolution, progressive dissolution of their self identity. So, a devotee does not plan and set, okay, so in 5 years' time, I should be 500 kilometers closer to God. No, that's not how devotion works.
Okay, sure. Mm,
This devotion is for omnipotent or for some.
I didn't get that question. Could you please repeat?
This devotion is for omnipotent God, or is it for some what do you say, the idol things?
Okay. To the devotee, it doesn't matter. To the devotee, it's God. That is it. And there are people. You look at a linga or you look at Shiva. See, example of you know Kandappa Nayanar and his devotion for Shiva. Like, see, he kind of felt that Shiva is some sort of a child who's not able to take care of himself. Okay, so does that signify omnipotence? No, that signifies a certain conception, certain inner conception of a divine, and a certain way of relating to the divine. So, if you ask a devotee, like, is your God omnipotent? Suddenly he or she will become conscious, and the rational aspect of him will say, oh yes, my God is omnipotent. But that is not how the everyday connection of the devotee to his or her Lord works. So you don't rationally, yeah. So you might have an outpouring of emotion, and you will say that you're this thing, you're omnipotent, you're omniscient, you know the whole world, you are the master. Nothing, even no stone will move without you, and so on. But all of these will actually come as an afterthought, as an outpouring of the devotion which is already within, and that devotion is pure emotion.
Rebirth and all. So, like rebirth is what exactly because we human are made of three elements. That is a God's particle, that is earthly material, and DNA. So, which three in one the thing takes rebirth?
Okay, there are different answers to this. So this classification that you've talked about, the DNA or the God's particle or the material. I'm not familiar with that classification. I can give you my understanding of what some of the scriptures have said. So when you talk about karma, it's referred to as a bundle of energies that actually plant certain.
Please explain me what we are. Let's understand human first. Then we will talk about God. First, let's understand what we are. We human, because let's understand ourselves. What we are. So, can you explain me
Exactly.
what the humans are first? Then we'll go next.
Okay, which conception of being human are you talking about?
What are we? We are three different things. Do you agree with that?
Okay, and what is the basis of that classification that we are three different things?
We are spirit. We have a spirit of God, God's particle. We are created from the earthly material, and we have the DNA. Do you agree
Some
with
might,
this?
the modern science conception might be that we are all all merely stardust.
I want an explanation from you. Do you agree with the concept, or you don't agree with it?
Okay, see, it's not a question of me agreeing with it, but personally speaking, will I apply that to understanding my own life? I will not. That does not mean that I don't agree with it. I just don't see it applying to myself as a useful classification. Because I don't have a need for such a classification in my belief system.
So the concept of rebirth, when you talk about rebirth, what takes rebirth? Whether it God's particle which takes rebirth, or is it the earthly material flesh, or is it the DNA? We
Okay.
agree. We agree that
Okay.
rebirth is there, but what?
Okay, what is being reborn? That's your question, right? So, I can give you an answer based on the Hindu mythology that I am familiar with. The classification in the Hindu mythology is that of koshas or sheets. Okay, so there is this thing called Annamaya kosha, which is your food body. There is something called Manonmaya kosha, which is your mind body. There is something called Pranamaya Kosha, which is your energy body, and there is something called Anandamaya Kosha, which is your bliss body. Okay, so now different beings at different stages of evolution are in touch with or have a lived experience of these different bodies to different extents. Now, what is being reborn in Hindu mythology, if you ask, the food body and the mind body create certain imprints on the energy body, which is the pranamaya kosha. And now it is this prana that actually, according to the karma that's developed in it, so a very loose analogy would be, your actions kind of write a software code, kind of embed a software code on your energy body. And it is this software code, the underlying software code, that causes the energy body to take up another physical body once this physical body is discarded for whatever reason. Now, this is the understanding of Hinduism that I am familiar with. Again, I am not an authority on how the transmigration of soul takes place or how Hinduism describes it. This is my understanding, and I can answer your questions based on my understanding. Thank you.
So means your last word you said soul. So do you think soul takes rebirth, or what exactly takes rebirth? That was my question.
Okay, so again, things like soul and have multiple shades of meanings, right? So if you say soul takes rebirth, then we need to ask the question, what do we mean by soul? Do we have the same meanings assigned to the term soul? So I would say the nearest approximation to soul in my belief system would be the pranamaya kosha or the energy body. It is this energy body that actually, takes rebirth.
Okay. Means
It's not even
can
taking
you please
rebirth. Actually, the energy body doesn't die in the first place. The energy body simply migrates from occupying one physical form to another physical form. That's the understanding.
See, today science has well advanced. Everyone believes that God's particle is there, that is soul. Then we have a human body is out of material, earthly material, and the DNA. So it is the rebirth concept which the Brahmanism or the Hinduism has copied from. It's from one of the principle of DNA rebirth, because DNA is the thing which because it is born, it is again regenerated, and it dies, and ultimately one kan takes a human form. So how you want your coming generation is based on your karma. Means, so if you do good thing, everything will be coded in your genetical memories. So how the future generation depends on your action, karma, and then later on, after so many of birth and rebirth, ultimately one mingle sperm takes a human form, and how you want your that human being is totally based is on your karma. That's what my understanding of what I have learned from Asivagam and what I have learned from Quran. But regarding Hinduism and Brahmanism, is little bit confusing. So we better come out with some new, better explanation, with which connects us with both with science and with the Asivagam with the holy books. Ultimately, one mingle sperm takes a human form, and how you want your that human being is totally based is on your karma. That's what my understanding of what I have learned from Asivagam and what I have learned from Quran. But regarding Hinduism and Brahmanism, is little bit confusing. So we better come out with some new, better explanation, with which connects us with both with science and with the Asivagam with the holy books.
Prolonging due to four basically regime disguised as Muslim world. Satyugam possible only through